Hello, hello, and welcome to the KV Core Success Meetup. My name is Kelly Bajarski. I am going to be your trainer, your host, and I guess the driver of today's session. So hang on one second. I'm going to share my screen with you. And hopefully by now you guys can see my cursor kind of spinning around on the dashboard here. This is a good opportunity to pop in and use that chat. Tell us where you're calling from or where you're logging in from. Let us know, maybe give us a weather report. Always nice to see if it's sunny in Philadelphia or wherever you're chatting in from today. Let me go ahead and make sure that Q&A is open. Joey, it's hot in Houston. Oh man, I do not envy you, and I feel for you guys. I know you've had some sizzling summer so far, and it's about to storm in Beaufort. Oh my goodness. Well, safe weather for all of you. Hunker down. I know we're kind of in a lot of parts of the country are in tornado weather, so be safe out there. All right, we're going to give everybody just about another maybe minute or so before we get started on today's topic. And of course, in the meantime, I'm happy to go over a little bit about what these success meetups are about and how you can access the replay. And of course, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is where all of that content lives. While I'm getting that pulled up and ready to go, I'd like to introduce you to my co-host, my co-host in crime, my colleague, and a great addition to our training and adoption team here, Joe Mullering. Hi, Joe.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, welcome. Thanks for being
Thank
here
you.
with
Yeah,
us.
it's great to be here.
It's one of my favorite sessions to do is these KV Core Success meetups because I feel like I always learn from our users in practical application. And I know since you're here, I'm going to learn something new from you too.
It's always a mutual learning that's happening here. So yeah, I'm excited.
And because it's live, anything can happen, right?
That's right. That's right. It makes it exciting.
That's right. It's never a dull day. Well, listen, I think we've kind of we borrowed enough time here. Let's run through a couple of housekeeping items and let's jump right into our topic today, which is using ChatGPT effectively to get better responses and how that can help you in your real estate activities every single day. So that being said, keep in mind that these sessions are recorded. We do have an entire KV Core Success library full of previously stored content. That's our Success Meetups tips, tricks, and Q&A. Now, our topic today, we probably won't take the full hour. And of course, this is an open Q&A as well. So you can come here with any questions, whether it's about today's topic or if there's just something that's burning a hole in your pocket that you've been dying to know. You can talk to some KV Core experts or self-proclaimed experts, as we like to think of ourselves, right, Joe?
That's right.
So we're happy to take your questions if you want to put them in the Q&A just to get it going or pop them in the chat either way. Keep in mind that right now the default is when you set it up to chat, it's going to go directly to the host. So if you want to make sure that you're chatting with your fellow attendees here, make sure you switch that over to everyone in the chat so that they can see what your questions are. That's always really helpful. Now, if you've never been on this Success Meetup before and you would like to subscribe to this channel, we made it really easy for you. Grab your phone. I'm going to give you a minute to grab your phone and scan this QR code, and it'll take you right to that YouTube channel where you can subscribe and ring that bell so you're notified when all that new content is added. Okay. All right. So, Joe, have you been using ChatGPT? Have you tried it out?
I have tried it out. I've explored it. I feel like I've only scratched the surface of it, though.
I feel like we're all in that same place of kind of, we're really exploring and scratching our heads going, what exactly is this? How can I use this? Some people I think have really cracked the code. And then there's others out there that are just scratching the tip, right? There's just so much potential for how it can be utilized for efficiency, for creative inspiration, for really helping you do pretty much all aspects of your job. And I think that when it comes to things like sending text messages out or creating content, even, your newsletters, we've done some great success meetups on how to use ChatGPT to really inspire you. And today we're going to dig a little deeper. We're going to go to that next level of really understanding some of the prompts that you can use and really some of the basic topics that every agent should know when they're using ChatGPT. So that being said, I put together a list of my own 5 topics that I think agents really should have buttoned down in their arsenal, that they should be using ChatGPT for. Whenever they're marketing their listings, whenever they're engaging with their clients, whenever they are providing high value real estate content, even negotiating with your buyers and your sellers or fellow agents. ChatGPT crosses all those boundaries. Remember, though, that while ChatGPT can provide valuable insights and suggestions, it's really important that you verify that information. You're only
Mhm.
as good as the source. So do not depend on it to be the know all and end all. It's not a copy paste. It is absolutely not a copy paste situation. It's really a copy and inspire. I use it for creative inspiration. So use your best judgment. Check with your broker if you have any questions at all about using any of these applications that we're talking about. If you have any specific questions, definitely want to route you back to being compliant and using your broker as that resource. Oh, wow, that was loud. I don't know what that was. I don't know if it was was there a big loud sound that came on your end, Joe?
No, I didn't hear anything.
Oh, goodness, maybe it's just me. Okay. I might be having some technical issues. Joe, you might have to take
All
over,
right.
but all right, let's jump right in. So 5 topics agents can use in ChatGPT. Number 1, property descriptions. So here's a prompt. Could you help me draft a captivating property description for a 3-bedroom suburban home with a spacious backyard and modern kitchen amenities? Okay, that in and of itself kind of sounds like the intro to a description that's going to be used in your MLS, right? So when you're using that in ChatGPT, this is your point of, it's like your point of entry. You're going to want to use this to just come up with those topics. So let me jump in here. As a matter of fact, you know what? I'm just going to copy and paste. Let me get out of screen share so you can get it, so I can grab this. Hang on. I'm going to copy that, jump back into slideshow. Don't look behind the curtain. That is definitely. So here's what I want to do, give you a little pro tip. So when you're using ChatGPT, and if you've never used it before, make sure that you have it logged in and bookmarked. The nice thing about the ChatGPT is it does store your messages for you so that you've got a nice file folder of any previously stored chats. So when you're using this and you're using these prompts, it's really just as simple as asking a question. So when I ask this question, obviously, here's the introduction. Now, at first response, this is pretty long. This is not going to be something that I'm going to add into my MLS description. It's just too long. So don't be afraid to narrow it down. Make sure that you're utilizing prompts to expand or to delete or to make it even just change its cadence and flow. So if this is just too much for you, you can always come back in here and amend it by saying, now narrow this down to, I don't know, I think in my MLS I have up to 500 words. So I might say narrow this down to 400 words or less. And then it's going to rewrite it for you. So now you're starting to narrow it down and craft it in a way that you can copy and paste. One thing I have noticed is that the formatting doesn't stay correct. And it doesn't translate very well sometimes. So sometimes it might be helpful for you to have like a notepad opened or a Word document. So when you're going to copy and paste, that you can change the format on it. So for example, if I went in and I changed this right here, let's just add it into my deck that I'm using and I pasted it, it's going to pull it in this wonky format, which may not readily help you. So if you have it open in a Word document, you can always come in here and then use whatever cleared formatting options that you have. Like I know in my Google Slides, I've got clear formatting right here. And now if I go to copy and paste it into my MLS description, it's gonna format correctly and it's not going to give me any wonky results. Sometimes that happens. So when you're using these prompts, just know that you're not limited by one. You can expand, you can narrow it down, you can You can revise the tone, you can change the prompts. All of those are easily amenable when you are in using ChatGPT. Hang on one second. Let me exit my full screen here. We'll get back to my slide deck. So great example of how you could use this for property descriptions, knowing now that you can expand and reduce those prompts that you're using. Another great one is for your client communications. Now we've done, as a matter of fact, I did one with Emily, one of our trainers, not too long ago about text deliverability and how some of the new TCPA guidelines are affecting our usage of our mass texting, or even texting out when we've got a newly imported bulk leads that have been imported on, and creating some strategies around that. I know that we did a recent session on that. And so client communication is really, really a great and important factor and feature that you can use in ChatGPT to help increase your deliverability. So you can be asking and including client communications uh, to not only help with your text deliverability, but also to give you some prompts that you can use in those outbound communications, those scheduled mass emails, those text messages that you're sending. So something like, hey, I've got a client looking for a family-friendly neighborhood and good schools and parks in, you might want to add your location in Beaufort, Georgia, in Marietta, California, in Charleston, South Carolina. Can you suggest some neighborhoods that match this criteria in our city? And then revise from there. And then again, shorten it to, I think for text messaging, one of the deliverability issues is always how long those text messages are. So KV Core does a really great job of keeping some filters in place so that you do limit those characters, but try to keep it to like less than 100 characters. So you could prompt ChatGPT to say, write me 100-character text that helps me send a text out for a client who is looking for a family-friendly neighborhood with good schools and parks in XYZ city. That would be a great way to set up a prompt for ChatGPT that is also being mindful of text deliverability and being TCPA compliant. So make sure that you're inclusive of that as well. Another prompt everybody should know is about market trends. So what are the current market trends in the local housing market? Specifically, I'm interested in understanding whether it's a buyer's or seller's market and what the average days on market are. Again, the more specific you can be here, the better. So I would go so far as to say, I'm interested in understanding whether it's a buyer's or seller's market in zip code 92563, in the east part of Marietta, California, in, and then whatever that specific location is. The more what's the word I'm looking for, Joe?
Specificity.
That's the one.
Hmm.
The better prompt the better response you're going to get, and especially when it comes to local trends. Now, this is one that I would always probably try and verify. So if you have a, if you're using Core Present and you're creating listing presentations, that is a slide that we create in the big picture marketing tool, is to have the average days on market. So this might be something that you might want to utilize when you're sending out a scheduled mass email and running maybe a Core Present listing presentation that has this information in it as well. But this could be a great prompt for something like that. Joe, how are we doing so far? Is
Great.
this helping your?
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that key about keeping it short. ChatGPT is a very robust tool, and it pulls in typically what I've found when I've explored it. It pulls in lengthy things, right? And you've always give that quote of, you can always edit and remove. It's a lot easier to do that than to
Yeah.
build. And then
Yep.
it's nice in that sense that you can then take what ChatGPT provides and kind of revise it and scale it down. But I really think that extra prompt of, can you make this shorter, or can you give it to me in X number of words or less, or characters or less, really does a great job of trying to stay within those, those parameters.
I agree 100%. And that's the great thing about it. And it's funny because when I've nicknamed my ChatGPT, I call him Chet. So Chet and I have a great relationship now. And the more that I find that I'm being specific with what I need Chet to do for me, the better the responses I'm getting, especially when it comes to the length of my messaging or content or whatever it is I'm looking for. Investment highlights. What a great way to use ChatGPT to give the pros and cons. Like, could you provide me with an analysis of potential high growth areas in, and I would not use our region, I would say in my city, my town, my zip code, my state, up and coming areas, areas that are known for fixer-uppers, or things like that, and what types of property are likely to yield good returns. So this is a great prompt to use for your Investor Tuesdays. I always say Tuesday is a great day to reach out to your investors. And remember, when you're in KV Core, you can leverage all of the saved filters in KV Core to create those quick links at the top. So if you have an Investor Tuesday marketing plan, make sure that you set it up so that you've got a pre-existing list of all of the people in your database that are, and I probably just include all my statuses, but because I've hashtagged all of my leads using the hashtag investor, instead of just applying that filter, I'm going to save this filter and call this my investor Tuesday list. And I don't know why I picked Tuesdays, but I feel like it goes well with my Taco Tuesday plan. So Investor Tuesday list, and I'm going to pin it to the top, save it as a filter. Now, every Tuesday when I come in here and it's time for me to run my, send my scheduled mass email, I can go over into one of my bazillions of quick links that I've got here, and I can click on my Investor Tuesday list, and it's going to pull up a list of everybody that's on my investor list here. What am I going to do with this? Well, I'm going to select all, and I'm going to schedule a mass email. And when I do this, I'm going to go over and use my ChatGPT to help me with that. Now, I can also use that in the marketing section. When I am going to schedule this, maybe I want to do this in advance. Remember, I can schedule my mass email and set up schedule email, and I can choose contacts that match criteria from a save filter. So if I have my Investor Tuesday list, there it is, Investor Tuesday list. Now I can again set it and forget it. I can schedule it to go out in advance. So all of these tools work really well that KV Core has designed for you. They work really well with any of these ChatGPT communications that you come up with. So if that's your strategy, is on Tuesdays, you're going to reach out to your investors, use this as a way to prompt any of that content that you want to send, because this is high value content. They're not going to get this from anyone else. And I guarantee if you're doing something like this, you're probably going leaps and bounds above what your competition is. So investment insights. How about negotiation support? Joe, what a great way to
Yeah.
turn to an expert to, really come up with some ways to have that sometimes hard to have conversation with maybe a seller when it's time to maybe, I don't know, get your offer accepted, or maybe it's time to do a price reduction. Hey, I'm in the midst of negotiating a deal with a seller who's reluctant to lowering the price. Can you suggest some effective negotiation strategies to help me secure a better deal for my buyer? Or maybe it's something that's a little bit more strategic about, can you give me 3 reasons I can tell my seller why it's time to lower the price? Something like
Yeah,
that.
no, I think that's huge. One of the things I hadn't even thought about this opportunity, so I'm can't wait to get out of this session so I can start exploring that. One of the things that came to mind was, I think a lot of times we negotiate based on what we know and the ideas of what we can think of, and oftentimes in negotiation there is a win-win that can come out of it, and everybody get what they need. We just have to think creatively about some of that, and I think this opens an opportunity to say, look, if it's truly a dollar amount thing, what are some other avenues that I can take? And you may only be able to think about the things that you've seen done before, and this may open some opportunities or avenues that you may not have considered as to sort of creative ways to negotiate that might be a little bit more amenable to the buyer or seller, depending which side you're representing.
100%. So negotiation support, use this as a way to soundboard some ideas that you've got. Now, 3 ways to prompt for better ChatGPT responses. So it is all about the messaging. Remember, you're talking to AI, so it's a very logical. It sounds kind of crazy, but the more specific you are, the more logical you are, the better responses you're going to get. All right. Because the one thing that we found that computers can't do is kind of read emotions and things like that. So it is very important that you be very clear and specific. So when you're prompting ChatGPT, instead of saying something like, hey, tell me about real estate, give me 3 great real estate marketing ideas. Instead, think about how you can ask it. So what are the current trends in a luxury real estate market? That's a lot more specific to what your use case is. So the more specific and the more clear that you can ask, the more likely are you're going to get to the better content that you need. That's also going to be considered high value content that nobody else is sending out. And again, this is designed to give you some creative inspiration. Another thing you can do is break down those really complex questions that you've got. You don't have to ask it all in one lump sum, right? So instead of saying, what are the pros and cons of investing in commercial real estate versus residential real estate? That's a lot. Break it down into 2 separate questions. You can ask multiple questions in a thread of ChatGPT. So you can say, what are the benefits of investing in commercial real estate? And what are the advantages of investing in residential real estate? You could even say something like, and what is a expected ROI for a first-time investor investing in commercial real estate? And I mean, you can layer it in and break it down so that it's not too, we don't want to break ChatGPT is what I'm getting, right? So break down those really complex questions into multiple questions. And then finally, it's okay to use examples and context for what you're trying to achieve. So instead of saying something like, give me negotiation tips, ask it this way. Can you suggest a negotiation tactic for convincing a hesitant seller to lower the price on a house sitting on the market for 20 days? That is a really clear example of what your use case is. So give ChatGPT the use case and what you want the outcome to be, or the suggested response that you want. And again, have a starting point, and then it's okay to ask it to say something like, now give it to me in 400 words or less. Or you could even say something like, now make it funnier, or make it more serious, or change the cadence of this in a way that I can speak to an audience. Maybe you're presenting some information about real estate to an audience. You could even have it write a script for you. So the more examples and context and what specific use cases that you're looking for are going to give ChatGPT the prompts that you need. And then use that in a way that is going to help with your creative inspiration, actual use cases. It can help you in pretty much every different direction. So Joe, anything you want to add to this before we wrap up our topic?
No, I just think I think after using Google for however many years we have gotten used to that, it's a very different way of writing to ChatGPT than Google. I mean, I think your points here and kind of adding context, adding outcome, adding expectations. You can't really do that with Google, where you can do that with this. And this is, as I've explored it, I've found much more successful results in giving it additional parameters. Even if I don't think of those off the bat, come back and refine it and refine it and refine it. But those will all be things as you guys continue to play with the tool that you'll learn kind of how to do earlier on in the process, so that you can give those prompts up front.
100%, 100%. So I want to leave you with this. As I mentioned at the beginning, we did a really great session. Oh gosh, it was probably, what's it been, about 3 weeks ago, with Emily, about text deliverability and how you can kind of help help against those filters and flags that even those third-party carriers are using for flagging or filtering out your text messages. So we recently updated our article on text deliverability, and there's some really great bonus content in here. So I really encourage you, if you haven't had a chance to check out this article, I did pull it up and I want to share it out into the chat to make sure everybody has a copy of this, because there's some really great bonus content in there that references some AI and using that with deliverability. So make sure that you watch it till the end. It's a fantastic video. I think you'll be really happy to see what that bonus content is. Awesome. Well, thanks, Nicholas. I appreciate that. A couple of questions that came in. From Penny Francis, when we enter a new prospect into the CRM, KV Core is validating the email address and scoring it. So I want to answer this one live. And you know me, Joe, I always like to go to the audience.
Mm.
So let me find Penny in here. I'm going to turn on your microphone, Penny, in case I don't answer your question right out of the gate. I want you to be able to chat freely with me. Hi, Penny.
Hi, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Thanks for being here today.
Sure. Well, thank you.
No, was this helpful? Was our topic today a little helpful for you? Did you learn a few nuggets here and there?
I did. I love ChatGPT. I cannot believe the information you get out of it. So, um,
Right? Sometimes it's not always as great as other times. So you got to check it out and make sure you're fact checking. But I agree. I love it.
yeah, that's exactly what my son told me who uses it. He said you always have to double check and make sure that the information that you're getting is truthful. So,
It's only as good as the person who input it. That's
yes.
been my motto all along. Information in any database is only as good as the person who input it. So it's always important to fact check. Good point. So Penny, your question is about what happens when a contact. Now, is this referring to when a contact comes into when you manually add them, or is it when they come to, say, your website and just sign up on their own? Or
Okay,
both?
so I'm new to KV Core, and
Okay.
I came across a really old database of mine that from 2008,
Oh,
and it
wow.
had 882 emails on it. And
Okay.
my son, again, who does emailing marketing for a living, told me that I should validate those. And he gave me the name of a company to do that through, and it was very inexpensive, and I ran it through. And then I scored them as well, and I ended up with 261 after the 882.
Mm-hmm.
And then I noticed today I was going through the agent setup and
Mhm.
the 5 things that we should do, and one of them was to manually input a contact. So
Mhm.
I did that with my husband, and immediately it
Mhm.
came up and said that it had been validated, and it showed me my
Mhm.
husband's company and all this kind of stuff. And I thought,
Were you like, oh my gosh, where did this come from?
well, I wanted to make sure that we were talking about the same kind of validation.
Okay.
And then also if it scored them, or should I continue using, which again, literally is not very much money at all, to
Okay.
use this third party, or do you guys do it and I can forget about the third party? I'm just trying to make a clean
Sure.
database. So,
No, I told you. And you know what? Garbage in, garbage out, right? That's how it
right.
works when you're putting in data into a CRM.
And I don't want to get I don't want KV Core. I don't want, I'm with Berkshire Hathaway. I don't want them to get I don't want anybody to get blacklisted
Sure.
or their servers brought down because of a bunch of junk that I'm putting in,
I understand,
possibly.
totally understand. So that's really, really great context into what the question is. So let me show you what KV Core does for you.
Okay.
So when a new contact or a new lead comes to your website, and say that's just somebody comes, usually, by the way, they don't end up on your homepage. So they usually are driven here, like to the sell page on your website, or over to actually a landing page, or they land on a page that's a search result. So it usually is like a squeeze page, or you're driving traffic to an individual page on your website. But let's just assume they have not logged in. They go through the motions wherever they land. Maybe it's searching for houses. Maybe it's for, maybe they did look at all, hey, I'm here. Let's look at the just listed properties. This one catches their eye. And then they go to save a property, or they go to chat, or they ask the agent a question or request a showing, or maybe they've looked at enough properties that it actually prompts the login. So what happens is, as soon as we capture there's information, that's where we start tracking them. Okay, we're tracking the information for the purposes of, one, validating the information. That does not mean verifying everything or checking their intent. We don't call anybody. It's not like that. It's a data validation to ensure that we're trying to provide you the very best information that we can bring you to ensure that you have a valid email address and or phone number. So that's what happens when they come to your website, and it shows up on the contact record. So if I go to Billy Madison right here, one of my favorite test leads, I can always see a visual cue right here, this little green ribbon. If this is green, that means that we've actually attempted to validate this lead. Now, depending on what we find out, we may or may not be able to bring in additional validation information. And you can always click on it again at any time, and it'll rerun the validation. So you can see your validation ran successfully. And it will pull up a note, and it'll tell you if they found anything new. So in this case, no additional details were found. But if I scrolled all the way to the beginning, when Billy Madison first either signed up on my website, or when he when I first added him, honestly, it's been so long, he's been here forever. You will see the original data validation. Oh, you can see here's another one, validation information updated. So here's one. So there's going to be a validation. It'll say validation run. And then what's really cool, I want to try and find somebody. This guy's been in here for so long, I'm going to have to go through this timeline to find you the original one. But the original validation will tell you if we found any other ancillary information. Sometimes number one, we'll tell you whether the email address is valid or not. Number two, we'll tell you if it's a good phone number. And we'll also bring in additional content, things like your age, your known business occupation. Sometimes if there's social media attached to the email address that was being used for the validation, we'll pull in links to their Twitter account, their LinkedIn, or their Facebook. And if that's there in the validation, how helpful is that for you to get some insight into the consumer? So you can 100% count on us to do as much validation as we can on the email address and phone number, but that's what we're looking for. We're looking for things like their occupation, age, other known social media accounts, and really the bottom line, do we have a good email or not? So if we do have one, then you'll see that validation information at the bottom. It's usually like the first or second thing that happens on the contact record when they first logged in, and you can rerun it right here as well. And that's how it pulls in the initial insights star rating right here. So depending on what they do when they first log into your account, and depending on what they look at, the data validation, the system kind of spins up these insights for you. And so this will tell you, hey, based on the predictive score that we used, those algorithms, we've determined that this is either a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5-star rated lead. And it's also a great way to kind of manage your leads if you're in the Smart CRM by going into the Smart CRM and just looking at or sorting by their star rating. So the star rating will show up right here as well. One thing to note about the star rating is that some agents, once they've had a conversation with maybe Bart the buyer, and I've had a chat with him, and while the system said, hey, this is a 5-star lead, it doesn't necessarily correlate to what I consider a 5-star lead, because maybe Bart has really bad credit. He actually has a cousin who's an agent. He was just browsing on your website. That's probably not going to be a great lead for me. So I might want to override what the system insights are, and I could change him to a 1-star lead. Now, if I do that, once I start overriding what these insights are, the system will no longer track and update that predictive score, and I will be responsible for updating that star rating. If I leave it alone and I just let the system do it, don't be surprised if you see those predictive scores change over time. Because I've seen people that have been off my website and come back 6 months later, all of a sudden their predictive score updated because of the new, because they're now using my website a little bit more consistently, or they've been away for a while. So there's different dependencies on that. Does that help, Penny?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So it's really up to you to decide what, how you want to how do you want to use that? I kind of feel like it's a built-in safety net for you. So I don't know what the other system does for you and provides it. And I also know it's not integrated in KV Core. So maybe you want to save yourself even a few pennies and just stick to KV Core.
Good idea.
Yeah. The other question you had was, I recently learned about reps and IDA. I think it was IDA. I'm not sure what that means, for gathering agent sales for their websites. Which does KV Core use? Could you elaborate on that? Because I'm not sure I understand the question.
I can, and I'm really sorry I don't remember the acronym either. But
ISA? Is it an ISA, like an inside sales rep?
well, no, what it's, you know, when you go to your website and you have your sales, it'll say my listings or my sales, and it gathers information from the MLS and it shows you what you've sold, what you've listed. Okay, so they're listing. But some companies, some companies that are doing websites, they're gathering information on both if you're a listing agent and also uh any sales that you've represented on the buyer
Oh, like,
side.
oh, I think I understand. So it shows your sales history. So like your track record,
Yes,
your
but
track
if
record.
you look on some, you won't see any of the transactions where you represented the buyer because they're only picking up the listings that
Mhm.
you
It's that it
did.
sounds like it's being pulled from your IDX feed, that internet data exchange that pulls the information from your MLS. And so it sounds like what it's doing is pulling your sales history, you as an agent, your sales history, to kind of show your competence and your, you know, how what kind of an
Right.
agent you predominantly market to, buyers or sellers or both, things like that. That's not currently a feature that we have within our websites. However, if you have that data and if you want to display that data, there is nothing that could keep you from creating your own custom page and displaying that data. So your sales will show up here, but remember your feed, the feed that we predominantly focus on when we're pulling listings is based on active leads or active listings. So that's why when you see under your agent, if you have your listings displayed, your my listings, it's only pulling your active listings and it's not based on a track record of previously sold. Doesn't mean you couldn't come into KV Core and take all of your listings that you've sold and display them as a manual listing, because a manual listing will stay on your website as long as you want it to. And then you can leverage it in like Core Present if you have that, or you could showcase it on your website. So you can always add those individual listings directly if you want to highlight that as part of your track history.
Okay, so for the websites, again, I'm new and Berkshire Hathaway, I think our brokerage is new with KV Core. So the website that we get, the initial website that we have through KV Core does not show our sales. Is that what
Your
you
previous
said?
sales, no, not in
Previous,
its current iteration, no.
only current listings that are
Active
open.
listings.
Active listings, okay.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep. No, good question. Thanks, Penny.
thank you.
Andrew, you had a great suggestion for the future. Could you update the playbooks to include prompts for ChatGPT? Well, Andrew, I will definitely take that back to our product developers. And that is one more reason why I really want you, especially you, Andrew, that's great feature request, is to watch this video and see what that bonus content is there. We're always looking for people's feedback and feature requests. As a matter of fact, there is even in the little chat bubble right here, there is in the messages, you can go here to the bottom and you can share more feedback right here on feature requests. So you can come right in here. And this information is tracked and followed by all of our developers. So make sure that you share your product ideas right here. So as a matter of fact, I'm going to do this for you right now, just show you how it works. I am going to copy what you put in here. I'm going to add that title here, Chat GPT. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to paste your response and let's share it with the developers right now. Andrew, it's done. That's exactly how you would share a product feature request, is right through that little blue chat bubble. Okay. I think I've got through all the questions. Anybody else have anything that's on their mind? Any questions? Joe, what's on your mind today?
I'm just excited to get into the negotiation piece based on
That's
what you
pretty
shared
cool,
earlier.
right?
I think it was
Yeah,
such a neat concept. So excited to see where that can take me.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I don't see any other questions that come in. Let's
Kelly, I did
see.
have one additional little note, and I think probably a lot of you may be familiar with this, but those new to ChatGPT, if you guys looked when Kelly first typed in the ChatGPT screen, you'll see at the top there's actually a 3.5 and a 4.0. So the 3.5 is the default kind of free available option that many of us are likely using. That's what I'm using. Just know that going back to kind of when Kelly talked about sort of the third example of looking at like real estate trends or things in the market, and we talked about how you really should validate this. The reason that's super important is because that ChatGPT 3.5 stopped inputting data as of September 2021. So that data is nearly 2 years old, and anything that's happened since then, and obviously in real estate, there has been quite a lot of happening since then, that you're not going to capture some of that stuff. So that's going to be real important. The ChatGPT 4 you see right there, that's a paid option. So that, and I just did a Google search, that does appear like it's continuing to pull in kind of up-to-date information. So that may have a little bit more, just sort of factual stuff that's a bit more up to date in terms of things like restaurants and trends and those kinds of things. So just be aware of that. Not that the ChatGPT 3.5 is unusable by any means. It's certainly great, but just know that you'll want to validate if you ask for things like restaurants in your area or like things that are happening. Some of that may just be a little bit old.
Especially real estate market information. That's a really great call out. So for me, if I was wanting to use ChatGPT for things like, MLS descriptions or those negotiating prompts, things like that, I think the free plan would work just fine. But if I'm doing anything that's market related, I would probably consider upgrading to that flow, and I'm not plugging it. We're not affiliates of
No, we're not
ChatGPT.
in
Just
any
so
way.
you should know, we're not.
Nope.
But I think that's important information to know.
Yeah.
Is that there is an upgrade to a paid version. So good call out. Good call out. Awesome. All right. Well, unless there's any other questions, I think I'm going to give you 20 minutes back in your day. It's time to hop off this webinar and go sell a house. So if you have any other questions or we miss something that you need a refresher on, make sure that you use that little blue chat bubble to reach out to our amazing support team. The response times are shorter and shorter these days. These guys are on it. And of course, please make sure that you subscribe, and I don't know where the bell is. There it is. Ring the bell so that you can get notified whenever we add these. I'll be adding this recording link probably by the end of the day tomorrow, no later than Monday. So if you want to catch the replay, you'll need to come into the YouTube channel and watch it. In the meantime, Joe, thanks so much for being my success buddy. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
Always
it's been
fun to
fun.
do these.
It's been
Yeah.
fun. Look forward to the next time.
Awesome. Well, have a great day, everybody. We'll see you on the next webinar.